We may have come to the final race weekend of the 2024 season here in Abu Dhabi, but there is still quite a bit of drama going on in this 2024 Formula 1 season, and right now it is the drama between Red Bull driver and current world champion Max Verstappen and Mercedes driver George Russell. After the close call they had in qualifying at the end of qualifying in Qatar, they have had quite a bit to say about each other since then. Max Verstappen starting off by saying he has lost all respect for Russell, and then a week later in Abu Dhabi, Russell finally responding, and then Max having his response. And in this impromptu video, we are going to go through what was said and whether Max or George were justified in certain things they said, and also go through some of the things they claimed the other has said or done in the previous week or so. Before I move on any further though, make sure if you are new to the channel to subscribe for more content like this, and of course smash the like button. Does help the channel grow, helps in the algorithm of course, and helps show me that you guys enjoy the content. But let's begin with what Max Verstappen said, because he is the one who started this off after, again, what happened in qualifying in Qatar, where Max was given a one-place penalty for impeding George Russell, who was trying to get round to start his final qualifying lap. According to the stewards, Max was driving unnecessarily slowly at the time in qualifying, obviously took the penalty, and as we know, went on to get back into lead anyway straight away and comfortably won the race. But after the race, despite winning comfortably and being happy with his race victory, still had quite a bit to say about George Russell, saying, quote, "I was quite surprised when sitting there in the steward's room what was all going on. Honestly, very disappointing, because I think we're all here, we respect each other a lot, and of course, I've been in that meeting room many times in my life, in my career, with people that I have raced, and I've never seen someone trying to screw someone over that hard, and that, for me, I lost all respect." He also went on to say he always acts, obviously talking about George Russell, extremely polite in front of the cameras, but if you sit together with him personally, he's a completely different person. He went on to say, "I truly can't stand that, then you might as well get lost. I don't want anything to do with you." So quite strong accusations about what George Russell did in Qatar in the steward's room, in regards to making out that what Max did was a lot worse in the steward's room than he was making out to Max in person, or maybe making out in the media. Now, Russell does actually have previous of this if Max, what he's saying is true. If we go back to the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne, of course, George Russell crashed out very late on. Pretty much, I think it was on the last lap in that Grand Prix, as he got very close to the back of Fernando Alonso, who slowed up a bit into a particular corner, and then Russell just approached the corner too quickly, got caught out, and then crashed quite heavily into the barriers. And the same happened pretty much there, where Russell, in the media, according to Fernando Alonso, made out it wasn't that bad, but then when it came to the steward's room, was a lot more passionate about why Fernando Alonso should have got a penalty. And of course, Fernando did get a penalty for what the stewards claimed was just not correct driving in that particular instance. So I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if Max is true with what he said in regards to George Russell's behaviour, but we must remember, we're never going to have evidence of this, because this is just hearsay, pretty much, from Max. But there is possible other evidence to back up what Max is saying. George Russell, though, didn't have the chance to respond in Qatar, because I don't think he was actually notified of what Max said until after he probably left the track last Sunday. But when he got to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, by then, I'm pretty sure he would have known what Max said, and was asked his response on Thursday afternoon at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and had quite a bit to say. He said, quote, "I find it all quite ironic seeing a Saturday night he said he was going to purposely go out of his way to crash into me and put me on my fucking head in the wall. So to question somebody's integrity as a person while saying comments like that the day before, I find is very ironic, and I'm not going to sit here and accept it. People have been bullied by Max for years now, and you can't question his driving abilities, but he cannot deal with adversity. Whenever anything has gone against him, Jeddah 2021, Brazil 2021, he lashes out. Budapest this year, the very first race, the car wasn't dominant, crashing into Lewis, slamming his team. He then went on to fully recount the interaction between the two, saying, quote, "To me privately, straight out of the stewards, he said, I don't know why you would want to screw me like this. I'm so disappointed in you. I was going to not even race you tomorrow. I was going to let you by, but now if I have to, I will purposely go out of my way to put you on your fucking head in the wall." So I don't understand why he was so unnecessarily aggressive and violent in that regard. He also went on to say a bit more about Max, saying, quote, "It can't just keep going on like that. For me, it's interesting, this whole regard with him and his own team. They're doing their utmost to get Horner out of Red Bull, but at the very first race that he wasn't competitive, he was absolutely slamming his team. And I know for a fact the week after, a quarter of his engineering team were sending their CVs to Mercedes, to McLaren, to Aston Martin. So I don't respect somebody who doesn't appreciate those who have given him the chance to perform, because these last 12 races he has had a car that is of normal competitiveness, and he's been in the fight the same way as myself, Lewis, Charles, Carlos, Lando and Piastri have been, and that's how it should be." So that is all that has been said by Verstappen and Russell. Of course, Russell's response was quite stinging, and there was quite a few, let's say, accusations in there. And yeah, we'll get onto that in a moment. But I think we'll go starting with what Max said, which is what initially kicked this off, and we'll go just along from there. Now, with what Max Verstappen said, he basically accused George Russell of exaggerating, let's say, what happened, more so than maybe he was in person or into the media. And according to Max, he believes that, that's what got him the one-place grid penalty that led to him obviously losing pole position. Now, as I said earlier, George Russell has been accused of this before, earlier this season, so I would say there is a decent chance this is true, because if you're accused of the same thing twice in the same year, and it is pretty much the same thing he's being accused of, then I would say the likelihood that he did do this is probably true, that he did exaggerate or make it out to be a lot worse to the stewards than he did to the media or to Max in person regarding the incident itself. And if that is true, that that's what George Russell did, I don't think you can blame Max for losing respect for a driver like that, especially if he considered him, a decent friend or something like that. And in general, even if he wasn't a friend, if he did have respect for George as a driver, then, if that situation did occur, again, I don't think you can blame Max for losing at least a bit of respect, if not all respect, if it did play out exactly like Max said. But let's go on to what George Russell had to say, because I've got plenty to say regarding his comments. So firstly, he accused Max of saying, coming out of the steward's room, that Max was going to purposely crash into Russell and, quote, put him on his fucking head in the wall. Now later on, in the comments posted that I found on X, Russell tried to recount the full interaction, and according to Russell, as you heard earlier, Russell said that Max said, "I don't know why you would want to screw me like this. I'm so disappointed in you. I was going to not even race you tomorrow. I was going to let you by, but now if I have to, I will purposely, crash into you and put you in the wall," basically. I have to say that the bit before the wild claim of, "I'm going to put you in the, put your fucking head on your fucking head in the wall," the bit where he claims Max said, "I was not even going to race you and I was going to let you by," Does that really sound like Max Verstappen? I know the championship's been won, but that doesn't sound to me like Max Verstappen. Max does not come across as a driver that, even if he's got the championship won, is going to be, just like, yeah, I'll just let you by. I'm not even going to really race anyone. I'm just looking for a chilled out finish to the season. Max does not come across to me as a driver like that. And if you look at the last couple years where he's won the championship a bit early, he's still been racing pretty hard in the races after his championship victory. So I do call bullshit on that. I don't believe Max said that at all. Because, as I said, it just doesn't fit the character of Max Verstappen. Now, for him to go from saying that to, apparently, I'm going to put you on your head in the wall, again, that is very aggressive and violent, but whether he said that or not, again, we are never going to actually know, because this is just he said, she said type bullshit. But I wouldn't necessarily say there's no chance that Max would say that. I could maybe see him in the heat of the moment saying that, but I'm not sure in this situation, given, there's not a championship on the line or anything, I'm not sure in that situation it would be as likely for Max to say that. So I'm not saying it's bullshit what Max said totally. Some of it I do think, the bit where apparently he said I was going to not even race you or let you by, I don't think at all Max said that, because again, just doesn't fit his character. But the bit about purposely crashing into him and purposely putting him on his head in the wall, again, I'd say probably 50-50. Again, you're never going to know if he actually said it, but it wouldn't exactly be, a gigantic surprise that Max would have a head loss and say something stupid, because he has done that before. And then a bit after that, he was saying about Max that people have been bullied by Max for years now, which is true, but Max has done it in an on-track way. He hasn't, been in the media, saying nasty things or anything like that. That is true. People on track have been bullied by Max for years now. And he does say, obviously you can't question his driving abilities, but then goes on to say that Max cannot deal with adversity. And the two examples he uses is Jeddah 2021 and Brazil 2021, where, according to him, quote, whenever anything has gone against him, Jeddah 2021, Brazil 2021, he lashes out. I would like to know the context of what he means regarding those races, because in Brazil, I'd like to know the context of what he's saying, because in Brazil, we can all agree he deliberately pushed Lewis Hamilton off the track, then eventually Lewis Hamilton overtook him, and then Max, I think, got a penalty for something else. I can't remember what it was exactly. But I don't remember Max lashing out in that race because of adversity, unless he means that Max pushed Lewis off the track deliberately because he knew that Lewis had a faster car. I'm not sure that that's maybe the correct way of maybe criticizing Max in that instance, saying that he did that because he can't deal with adversity. And then with Jeddah, yeah, I think with that you could probably agree with what Russell said there, but I, in general, don't agree with him saying that Max cannot deal with adversity. Max has dealt with plenty in his career. Not everything has gone his way, even though, yes, he is a 4-time world champion and he's still nowhere near 30 years old. Max has had plenty of adversity, plenty of incidents with people, plenty of clashes on track and maybe even off track, you can say as well. So, he's had plenty of adversity. He's not had it totally easy in his Formula One career. So, again, I wouldn't say that Russell necessarily, with the examples he's providing and just in general, is correct. But, that's his point of view. Obviously, he's been very pro-Mercedes against Max since 2021, obviously, when, the controversial incident in Abu Dhabi had happened in 2021. Russell was one of the most vocal against what happened, which is good to see, because what happened in that final race, from a technical standpoint, was wrong in terms of the application of the rules, and Max should not have won the championship technically, given the safety car should have stayed out, or there should have been a red flag rather than what happened. But I just don't agree necessarily with George's conclusions about Max. But it's clear that he doesn't like Max. There is absolutely no doubt about it from what he has said, in these comments. And then goes on to say later that Max, I think really accusing Max of being ungrateful, really, for, Red Bull, once they stopped being competitive during this season, he was, absolutely slamming the team. Which, in that race in Hungary, he was. And I even said after that race that Max went a bit over the top. But he wasn't slamming his team every Grand Prix. And you have to remember that the standards at Red Bull are so high, especially, after, these last 2 or 3 years or so. And with how they started the season, I don't think Max was necessarily in the wrong with criticising his own team's performance, given how they went from the clear fastest team to, at times, the 4th fastest team, and they were, miles off winning races at times. Go look at, around the time of the Italian and Azerbaijan Grand Prix, where, Max, because of the car performance, was unable to even challenge for the podium, never mind the race win. So I don't think criticism of his team was necessarily unfair, because again, the standards are really high at Red Bull. And then he goes on to say, Russell, about a quarter of his engineering team sending CVs to other teams after that Hungarian Grand Prix. Whether that's true, who knows? There's no way of verifying that unless you were to ask those people that apparently were sending their CVs elsewhere. And then he goes on to say, I don't respect somebody who doesn't appreciate those who were given him the chance to perform. Which, again, I disagree with. I think he does appreciate, his engineers and the people around him. I just think, even though maybe his criticism went a bit over the top in that particular Grand Prix in Hungary, I think he was still right to criticise the team because, again, the levels, the standards at Red Bull are so high that when you clearly drop off like they did, it cannot be accepted. And if you accept that standards drop, you never come back from that. That's why Ferrari, for the last 16 years, have not won a championship, because they accepted the drop in standards. Same with Mercedes. You can't accept a drop in standards, because if you do, then you're going to have years and years of not winning anything. So there's nothing wrong with Max criticising the performance of his team and demanding better standards. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's why Red Bull and Max as a team are world champions yet again, and why George Russell and Mercedes are not. Because Mercedes have, their standards have dropped massively since, their last Constructors title in 2021. And in this era since 2022, Mercedes, again, their standards have been way away from what they should be, and really have performed most of the time pretty terribly compared to Red Bull. So I don't think George has much to stand on here. I will also add, just because I thought it was a bit funny that George was, by the looks of it, on the verge of tears when he was saying these things. I just thought that was funny, given how it's really not that serious. But clearly to him, it is, because he looked pretty serious when he was saying it. And Max actually did come out to, I think, said something else about, about possibly George crying or something like that, and said next time he'll bring tissues. I think there was some sort of comment like that. So, bit dramatic, I have to say, a look when he was making these comments to the media. And then in regards to what Max said in response to Russell in Abu Dhabi, he basically just repeated what he said in Qatar, which is no regrets about what I said, no respect for him for what he did, and moving forward, I basically don't like him, is what Max was saying. So, overall, coming out of this heated battle off the track, let's hope they can have a heated battle on the track next year. How great would it be to see Verstappen and Russell have a championship battle? They might even be teammates in 2026. You don't know. Toto Wolff still twerking, as we say, for Max Verstappen for 2026. But yeah, it'd be great to see these two on track have a great battle. But in terms of this little heated off-track in the media battle, I think Max, I'd say mostly, is in the right here. I think, given especially how Russell has been accused of what Max is accusing Russell of, Russell having been accused of that particular behaviour before, back in Melbourne, by Alonso, I think makes what Max said, absolutely fine. And I think his criticism is, if that did happen, which I believe probably it did, because, if you've had two accusations of the same type of thing, then it's probably true that you are behaving in that way. And I think Max absolutely is justified in losing respect and maybe losing all respect for George Russell. With George's response, again, certain things he said that Max said, we're never going to have evidence of. And the same goes necessarily for Max with George. Again, we're never going to have actual, clear, undeniable evidence of what was said. But I would believe Max more than George Russell in these war of words, let's say. But let me know, guys, in the comments section, what do you think about these war of words? Who do you think is more so correct? Whose criticisms are more justifiable? And who do you believe more so in what was said? Let me know in the comments section down below, and let's see what you guys have to say. But guys, until my next video on the channel, it has been me, Chazzer HD. Goodbye.